So we're going to look at simplifying algebraic fractions. This is Unit 5, Lesson 1. So we're going to look at initially how do we use factors to simplify fractions, and then we're going to apply that to algebra and to algebraic fractions. So let's look first. If you have something, say 10 over 2, okay, you want to make a common factor on the top and the bottom that you can cancel. So for example, 10 over 2, well 10 is, let me ticken up the pen. I always do this. 10 is 2 times 5 divided by 2. Okay? Now, you see 2 is a common factor to the top and the bottom, so you can cancel it, and you're left with an answer of 5. Now, if you look at the other one, 2 over 10, what's going to happen here? You're going to have 2 over 2 times 5. 2 cancels from the top and cancels from the bottom, so you're left with that 2 then, because when they cancel, it just leaves you with a 1. So that leaves you with 1 over 5. Okay, that's your answer there. If you look at the last one, 6 over 15. Well, what's a common factor of 6 and 15? It's 3. So the top can be written as 2 times 3, and the bottom can be written as 5 times 3. The 3's cancel out. I'm left with 2 over 5. And that's my answer. That's how it works. Okay, so you factor it trying to make a common factor with the top and the bottom, and then you cross out or cancel out the common factor. Let's look at a bit more complicated. So if you look at the top and the bottom, 4AB. Well, look at the letters part. You can see straight away that A is a common factor to both of them, isn't it? Now look at the numbers part. Well, 4 and 2, 2 is a common factor. So we're going to write the top as 2 times 2 times A times B. And the bottom is just 2A. Right, so now we're going to do our cancelling. Cancel a 2 on the top from a 2 at the bottom. Cancel an A from the top and an A with the bottom. And what are we left with? On the top we're left with 2B. And on the bottom, when everything is cancelled out, it just means 1. So 2B over 1 is 2B. The other one again, 2 and 4 are the numbers. So 2 is our common factor, and we've x's as well. So the top is going to be 2 times x times x. The bottom, 2 times 2 times x. Let's do our cancelling, a 2 and a 2 at the top and the bottom, an x with an x. So what are we left with on the top? We're left with x, and on the bottom, we're left with 2. There's your answer. Okay, so before I go on to do these next ones here, I want you to try them yourself. And then you can check my solution to see if you got it correct, okay? So look at the first one here. So we've 6 and 3, the numbers in common is a 3. So it's 3 times 2 times x times y. And on the bottom, it's 3 times x times x. Now let's look at our cancelling. The 3 goes with the 3. An x goes with an x, so we're left on the top with 2y, and on the bottom we're left with x. And that's our answer. The next one's a little bit trickier. So with this one, what we've got here is x plus y over x. Now you see the way we have a sum on the top. If you look at the previous examples, it was just one term on the top. Now we have 2 terms on the top. And what we can do, we can separate it, so we can write it as the first term over the denominator plus the second term over the denominator. Okay? We can split it up like that. If there was another term, we could split it with another term on it. We could split it, so say for example it was x plus y plus z over x, we could write it as x over x plus y over x plus z over x. Now if you look here, x divided by x cancels out, it leaves you with 1. Y over x, nothing cancels, it just stays as it is. So it's 1 plus y over x. Right, let's move on. Let's look at some that are a little bit trickier, perhaps. Well, straight up what we have here, these ones are pretty easy. So we have a list of factors, and we just have to look for common factors that we can cancel out, like we did in the last one. So we have, I'm just going to write it out again. So I have x minus 3 times x plus 2 over 4 times x minus 3. Now what do? Is there any factor that's common on the top? x minus 3 and x minus 3 cancel. So what am I left with? I'm left with x plus 2 on the top, and I'm left with 4 on the bottom. And there's my answer. Let's look at the next one. So x plus 3 is squared, so it means it's multiplied by itself. So that expands to 2 times x plus 3 times x plus 3 all over x plus 3. Now if you look, x plus 3 from the top cancels with the x plus 3 from the bottom. Okay, so we're just left with 2 times x plus 3, which you could also write as 2x plus 6. Alright? So, just for the next part, we're going to do a little review of factorization. Now we already did this in class, so we're just going to have a quick look at this because this will play an important part in the next section of this unit and this lesson. So, factorization. So when you're factorizing, the first thing you always do is look for a highest common factor. Alright? Now, you look at the first one here. Is there a highest common factor? Look at the number parts. 3 is a highest common factor. Is there any letters in common? No. So it's 3. Now 3 times 2a gives you the 6a, and 3 times 3b gives you the 9b, and you're done. Let's have a look at b. Look at the two numbers, 4 and 2. 2 is common factor. Look at the letter part, x squared and x. X is a common factor. Now 2x times 2x gives you 4x squared and the minus 1. And finally for part C, we remember that we need two numbers that add to give 6 and multiply to give 5. So it's going to be, those two numbers will be 5 and 1. Sorry, hold on, let me see. Scratch that. Those numbers will be, let me see if I can erase. Those numbers will be 2 and 3, so ignore me. So your factors are going to be x plus 3 and x plus 2. Okay? So simple factorization. Now, if you look at this here, see the way we have two terms on top, two terms on bottom, where we have, it's not just as simple as 4x squared over 2x. Okay, it's something minus something over something minus something. We're going to factorize and see if there's factors that come up that we can cancel out. All right? So if we look at the first one, we want to see what factors there are in common. So let's factorize one. Let's factorize the top. So we see there's no numbers, so there's no number in common between the two parts on the top, or the two terms on the top. But there is a letter, so A is in common. Now, what do I have to multiply A by to get AB? B, and to get AC? C. And the B minus C is on the bottom. Now look, common to the top and bottom is B minus C, so I'm just left with A. Let's look at the next one. Let's factorize the top. So in common to the numbers on the top, we have 2. In common to the letters on the top, we have x. And we're going to have x minus 2 in parentheses. Okay? Now let's factorize the bottom. See what's in common in the bottom. Well, what's common factor between each part? Well, it's 4. So what we're going to have is 4 times x minus 2 goes here. Now simplify that out. And what we're going to have is 2x over 4. Now look, we can simplify that further. Okay, because that's 2x over 2 times 2. Cross out a 2 from top and bottom. And we get x over 2. So look, we always have to be checking if we can simplify it further and knock out another factor. Okay, that's what writing in simplest form will do for you. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at something here that we need to understand. So, if you have a minus b, and you multiply that by minus 1, That gets you minus A plus B. And minus A plus B can also be written as B minus A. Okay? So B minus A is minus 1 times A minus B. Okay? Just think about it like that. It's a little bit tricky, but we'll worry about it more in class. So let's have a look. So if you look at the first one here, number 3, we're going to have a look at this. So let's look at the top first. Okay, we see we have a couple of terms on the top and a couple of terms on the bottom, so we need to think about factoring. Let's look at the top, right? We can factor out a 3. There's no letter in common, but there's 3 in common. So it's 3 times A minus B over B minus A. All right, so what we can do now is we can write the B minus A on the bottom as minus 1 times A minus B. So it's 3 A minus B over minus 1 times A minus B, because minus 1 times A minus B is B minus A. And now look, we cancel. And what are we left with? 3 over minus 1, which is minus 3. All right? Now let's look at number 4. So just for space purposes, I'm going to do number 4 up in the top up here. So number 4 here, I'm going to do it over in this space here. So what we have, we're going to factor again. So let's just make it simple. So we've A times B times B. Don't be afraid to expand it out like this if you think you have to. Okay, so for the purposes of factoring, what's common to each one? An A and a B. So we've AB times A minus 1. No, sorry, B minus 1. Correct that. On the top, we have 1 minus B on the bottom. Now, B minus 1 and 1 minus B, you multiply 1 by negative 1 and you get the other one. So we're going to write that down is AB times B minus 1 all over minus 1 times B minus 1. And they're going to cancel. So I'm going to get minus AB divided by minus 1. Well, minus AB divided by 1, sorry, AB divided by 1 is AB, divided by minus 1 is minus AB. And that's the answer. Okay? And I think we're done.